Hey guys, and welcome to this video on the solar return in astrology. I am Cassandra. Welcome to my channel, Saffron Sage Astrology, and today we're talking about the solar return. So I'm going to talk all about this chart, what it means, what it is, and tips on how to read it correctly. And let's get into the video. I also have readings on sale right now for 50% off, so you can book a consultation with me. Click the link below to do that. So the solar return in astrology is kind of like the astrologer way of saying your birthday, because the sun, it comes back to where it was when you were born. That is the definition of a solar return, when the sun hits that same exact place. And because the sun takes about 365 days to go around that wheel, when the sun returns, it happens to be right before, like the day, usually the day before or the day after your birthday. So anytime a planet returns, that ends one cycle and begins a new one. And because the sun returns back to where it started, we can read this chart, this solar return chart of your upcoming year, as a way of seeing the themes and the dynamics that might play out during the coming year. So before you can pull the solar return chart and start reading it, there's a few sort of debatable things about a solar return you might need to know. One of those things is going to be your location. It is commonly said that the solar return needs to be pulled for wherever you are in the world. So wherever you are, that is where you use for the location of your solar return chart. I have heard of people moving or going somewhere else for the weekend for their birthday to elect a better solar return for that year. However, I don't know if that works. I've never tried it. I've never worked with a client who tried it. And to be honest, I'm not super into that kind of stuff. I wouldn't try to manipulate the planets to be in a good place on my birthday personally. The point is just to know your location for wherever you are during your birthday, during that solar return. That matters when it comes to pulling that solar return chart. So there's a couple of ways to read the solar return chart. One, what some people do is they take their natal chart and they will read the natal plus solar return, and they will read all the planets on the outer wheel for that solar return. The way I do it is I just read the chart by itself. I read that solar return chart on its own, on a standalone chart, and I use Tropical Placidus for that chart. Other astrologers might do it differently. My way is not the right way, it's just the way that I choose to do it. So when it comes to actually getting into the chart, now that you know about the location and you know the different ways you can read the solar return chart, the good stuff is knowing what to look at. So when you open up that solar return chart, there are three things that are way, way, way more important than anything else: the house of the sun, the house of the moon, and the rising. So the reason why the house of the sun and the moon are the most important and not just the house and the sign is actually because in the whole solar return chart in general, it's better to look at houses rather than signs. The reason for this is because the outer planets, they are always going to be the same every year for everyone, right? When Pluto's in Capricorn, everyone's getting Pluto in Capricorn in their solar return. Therefore, that placement by itself doesn't have any significance. It has a little in the fact that we're all going through a Pluto in Capricorn transit. But these outer planet transits tend to affect us more on a generational level, definitely not on a personal level. So because of this, all the outer planets are kind of out when it comes to what sign they're in. The sun as well is always going to be in the same sign as when you were born. So it's out for what sign it's in. Even Mercury and Venus, which you might think, oh, well, they might change. They will never be too far from the sun. Mercury will never be more than one sign away from the sun. Venus will never be more than 2 signs away from the sun. So there's not that many places Mercury or Venus can be in the solar return chart in terms of what sign they can be in. For that reason, we don't read their signs either. So that leaves us with Mars and the moon. These are the only placements, the only planets in the solar return chart that they could have the possibility of being in different signs each year. So if you really have your heart set on it, you can read the sign the moon's in and the sign that Mars is in. So this is why the most important things to look at are the house of the sun, the house of the moon, and the rising sign. Your rising sign in your natal chart's always your rising sign. Your moon is always your moon sign. But in the solar return chart, the sun and the moon just tell us what are the most significant areas of life this year, period. No matter what else is happening, the sun and the moon, if you know very little about astrology, you can read this yourself. You can look at your solar return chart and see where is the sun, where is the moon, what areas of my life are highlighted. You can also look at the rising and think of the rising as like a flavor of your year, or certain themes associated with that rising sign being more prominent for that year. So let's say you have a Gemini rising in your solar return, you might be communicating more, you might be selling more, you might be talking more. You might be going to more, having more small talk with people, running more errands or being more busy. If you have like a Pisces rising on your solar return chart, this might be a year where the general themes of Pisces are infused into your year. So that could be the nebulous, confusing side of it, and kind of not knowing what your next step is, having to go with the flow a little bit. It can also be healing. It can be losing track of time, spacing out a little bit, things that involve losing yourself in the moment. Now, this could be good, right? You could lose yourself in a spiritual experience, right? You can lose yourself in even like a really good Reiki session, things like that. So there's more to it. Pisces can also be imagination or creativity. You can lose yourself in that as well. But basically, whatever sign is on your solar return charts rising, these will be strong themes you're probably going to deal with at some point during the year, if not the whole year. Another thing is about timing. So sometimes that solar return chart can even start, people say up to like a month before your birthday or a month after. It's not like on that day, bam, the whole chart comes into play. It's more like, you generally ease into those energies. I want to leave you with a little piece of advice. And so the piece of advice is to don't read the solar return chart as the outcome of your year. Read it as a potential for your year. Because number one, you don't always know how those signs and planets are going to express. For example, in my solar return chart this year, I have Venus conjunct Pluto in the 7th house. I thought I was going to get a stalker. I thought that I was going to maybe, meet like some super scorpionic guy, and like the year is not over, fingers crossed. But basically, no stalker, no drama, no people threatening me, nothing Venus-Pluto-like. And Venus-Pluto is a very specific kind of trying to be like someone controlling you or stalking you or, being vicious. It's like possessive, being possessive, really, I should say, not vicious, sometimes vicious, but always possessive, Venus-Pluto. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if in a few more months, maybe that will be activated. I don't know if maybe I'll get lucky and it won't express as a person being that, but maybe I will have some of that energy where I become more magnetic, or maybe it will represent the transformation of the Venus areas of my life, the areas of my life that Venus rules, like money or appearance. Like maybe I can make a major shift to my appearance from last December through the following December. So I just wanted to use this example to illustrate that not every single aspect is going to manifest in the textbook mundane astrology definition. You can count on the solar return to be accurate in terms of the psychology of the year, the things that you are thinking about and dealing with and feeling and experiencing. So like if your moon is in the 12th house in that solar return, well, you might have a year where you're trying to figure out what you feel, or you can't quite put your finger on why you feel the way you feel that year. If your moon is in the 6th house, you might really, really care about doing really good work and craftsmanship and gaining skills. So I would recommend that if you are trying to interpret your solar return chart yourself, that what you do is you try to look at it from the most, like zoom out from the most wide perspective Because what happens when we do these things ourselves, let me know in a comment below if you've ever done this, is we end up kind of like, we get attached to the outcome. We want our year to be this thing, you know. I want that Venus Pluto to be a Plutonic guy, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like, we can't make the chart manifest what we want it to be, the version of the aspect we want it to be. And sometimes we'll misinterpret it, especially when either we're newer at astrology or we are reading our own chart. So that is one thing to be aware of, is don't read the solar return chart as if it's a promise and wait for that promise to come true. Read it more like a way to, like, how can I use these energies for the year that I want to create? Another example here is wherever we have Mars in that solar return chart, that's where we're going to be the most motivated, the most have the most drive, or, you know, probably be the most passionate. So in a year that I see that I have Mars in the 10th house being career, I'm going to take a lot of action on my career that year. If I have Mars in the 4th, well, that's home. That's focusing on the home. That's home improvement. I wouldn't stop taking action in my career. But if I see that Mars in the 10th, I'm not going to wait for the motivation to show up and be like, oh, it's going to motivate me. It's going to do me. The planets aren't going to do me. I'm going to do them. I should definitely take that quote out of context. I feel like that would be beautiful. So instead of going, oh, what's Mars going to do for me? Mars in that 10th house. Instead of asking that or looking at it from that way or waiting for it to manifest, I'm going to see that Mars in the 10th and I'm going to just push forward on career goals, because, you know, it's like, when I use my Martian energy in that area of life, aka work hard, get stuff done, don't let obstacles stop me, go for what I want, etc., be confident, then I'm going to get more bang for my buck that year if I do that. Same with like Mars in the 1st house. This would be a year where you have more energy. Doesn't mean you're going to use it. You got to still choose if you're going to use that energy that's there. So, you know, I think of the planets in the houses in the solar return chart as potentials. Some of them will manifest with or without my consent. But for everything that I want to manifest and create, I'm not waiting for those planets to show up, those planetary energies to show up. I'm going to choose to use them to my highest benefit. I also have readings on sale right now for 50% off, so you can book a consultation with me. Click the link below to do that. So let me know, you guys, in a comment below if that makes sense. I love hearing from you. Comment below if you want more videos like this, or with any other video suggestions you guys have. I love hearing from you. You can also hit that subscribe button and the bell for more astrology related content. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and the bell so you get access to more lovely videos like this. And I will see you all in the next video.